We want to bring in Sarah Isgur, an ABC News contributor and a staff writer for The Dispatch. Sarah, thank you for joining us. We know that you also interviewed Congresswoman Liz Cheney on your podcast. This question would have seemed unfathomable even recently. Do you think that Liz Cheney has a place in today's Republican Party?
I think that that's an increasingly tough thing to answer in the positive. I think that you can compare Liz Cheney to sort of the Rockefeller Republicans where they found themselves in 1984. You know, Liz Cheney told me that she believes the Republican Party stands for a strong national defense, limited government, these things that the Republican Party used to stand for. But then in the post-Trump era, the Republican Party has been evolving away from those things. And so I think it's a question that a lot of these Republican leadership from a previous generation are having to ask themselves is, what does the Republican Party stand for now? And is that answer simply Donald Trump? And I think we saw that a little bit just in the Elise Stefanik versus Chip Roy race to replace Liz Cheney. Elise Stefanik has a far more moderate record that is not particularly in line with most of her Republican colleagues, but she was endorsed by Donald Trump. Chip Roy, the far more conservative Republican in that race, Donald Trump came out against. He lost quite handily.
Especially stark differences to see that Liz Cheney voted with President Trump a lot more frequently than Elise Stefanik did as well. It's interesting to see the characterization of the Republican Party because you have the leadership, Elise Stefanik, Steve Scalise. They're talking about the Republicans are united. On the other side, you have people saying the Republicans are tearing themselves apart. This is a civil war. How do you see it? I
tend to think that the leadership of the Republican Party is more accurate on that. I don't think there is a civil war anymore. I think that ended probably around 2016. And Donald Trump is still the leader of that party. There was, you know, some disagreement around January 6th. It looked like some elements of the party might finally push back on Donald Trump and his, vice grip on the party. But since January 6th, we've seen a lot of leaders in the Republican Party look to rehabilitate Donald Trump. When Kevin McCarthy flew down to Mar-a-Lago, I think looking back, that was a very pivotal moment in the history of the Republican Party. So, no, I don't think there is a particular civil war going on at this point. But I don't know that that is a good thing for the Republican Party. They will take back the House in 2022, almost certainly, if trends are even close to what they have been for previous opposition parties in the first midterm election. But what does that mean for 2024? What does that mean for after? The Republican Party base has been shrinking, not growing.
You're a former Trump administration official. We've seen now how a lot of these top Republicans are supporting the former president. What do you think is the former president's role in the Republican Party moving forward?
I think he plans to run for president in 2024. I think he'll wait because he has no real need to jump in earlier. But when the Republicans presumably take back the House, they only need 5 seats in the 2022 midterm election. Donald Trump will claim victory. He will say that this is proof that the Republican Party needs him and that he has the mantle of the party base going into 2024. And I think that is the answer to where the Republican Party is, who the Republican Party is, all of it.
I mean, you're kind of already giving this away in your answer. There has been kind of a continuous merry-go-round of anti-Trump Republicans floating runs for president in order to defeat the former president or maybe take away his possibility. We saw it with John Kasich. Now there's talk of maybe Liz Cheney in the future running for president. Is there any shot of that having any remote success of dividing the party, or at this point is it just you go with President Trump or you don't have a place with the party?
If Donald Trump runs for president in 2024, none of those people will be able to stop him from getting the Republican nomination. The more interesting question is, will there be someone with high enough name ID, with enough of a following to say, no, I have to do everything in my power to prevent Donald Trump from getting into the Oval Office again, so I will run as a third party specifically to prevent Donald Trump from getting enough votes, and thereby allowing Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is to win the presidency. So far, no one has said they're willing to do that. And so in that case, if Donald Trump doesn't run for president in 2024, I still think there is not a lot of room for that candidate, but at least then there's an opening depending on who it is. But you have to look at Ron DeSantis, Tucker Carlson, people who are far and away favorites of the post-Trump base, let's call them. I don't see a lot of room in the Republican primary for any of those other candidates.
And I know that after what we just went through in 2020, a lot of people aren't necessarily looking forward to another presidential race. So I guess in the interim, with all the issues that we're dealing with right now, do you see any areas where maybe bipartisanship could be achieved in Congress, maybe the infrastructure deal or something else?
That's a great question. It is hard to imagine, with the polarization that we have now, anything reaching bipartisan consensus, because it's not in anyone's individual interest to do so. There was a recent Pew study that found that the number of independents in the country is actually at an all-time high. It used to be about a third, Republicans, Democrats, and independents in the country. Now over 40% identify as independents, fewer than 30% identify as Republican or independent. You'd think that would make people less partisan, but actually the opposite has happened, because the people left in the parties are more strident, more partisan, but independents, it turns out, vote like they used to as partisans. And so the parties move further to the edges, and the independents don't actually vote split ticket. And so there's not a lot of interest in bipartisanship from voters, and that's the incentive structure that members of Congress are reflecting at this point.
And you're seeing that in Congress's actions as well. Sarah Isgur, appreciate your time.
You bet.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.